Goodbye 2020, welcome 2021. This year was long. I don't know about you, but I felt like this was the longest year of my life. How do you feel, Denise?
It wasn't so bad for me, to be perfectly honest, but it definitely has been a long year, and I'm just so glad that we've kind of turned a new leaf, at least calendar-wise. Whatever sign of hope we can take, I will take it.
I know, I always find it so funny when people think that as the year changes, like everything's different. And it's like, not necessarily, like whatever you had baggage wise in 2020 is going to follow you in 2021.
It's not going to magically disappear.
Yeah. So that always is interesting. But I always do feel that it's great to encourage people to try new things, to have new practices, to really look back on how the year went and to look forward as to how they want to make this next one better. So it's really good to have that sort of mindset. I feel just recognizing that, you know, it's time to just do something different for yourself to better yourself. But let's take a look back though. Before we start bettering, let's look back at what 2020 was like for us. Like, I don't know about you, but I changed quite a bit in terms of my living situation. So I no longer live at home. I live with my partner. And it was such a fast change because I think when we came together and we did this, it was right when the province went into lockdown, and we just made the decision to have it happen like as soon as possible so that we were limiting contact with family, and it just worked out nicely. Like it was our goal to move in this year, but it just, the circumstances just ended up being a lot different than how it would regularly feel for couples to start a life together. So I always got the jokes like, if you guys make it, then you know you can last anything, like during a pandemic. And I'm just like, thanks guys, thanks a lot. But yeah.
How did you find that experience moving from living at home, living with your parents, and then now living with your partner? Like, was it what you expected, like pandemic aside?
I mean, it was interesting because I think when we had our first like month together, I think it was like the whole like honeymoon period where we're like, oh, we're together all the time, this is so nice. And then I think like months passed, I'm like, we're together all the time. Like it's very interesting trying to make something like this work during a pandemic, obviously, but like even pandemic aside, like you said, it's just a matter of you're introducing, you know, your lifestyle choices and and just like your, you know, like just your everyday habits to another person like that. It's not like this person's your roommate, this is your partner.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to, I guess, discover how we both function and how we don't function so well. It's still a work in progress. Like it hasn't even been a year yet. So I think it's been a great learning experience for that bit. What I will say is that with the pandemic, I think it's pushed us to have conversations, like tough conversations that I think if we weren't in a pandemic would have been overshadowed by events, by seeing friends, you know, by just going out. It was really interesting even in the beginning too, because we started with this pandemic and I was like panicking all the time. Like, so I was like really anxious when COVID-19 hit. Like I would be really like, I would be that person who like looks at people outside, like outside in our backyard being like, you're standing too close together, I don't like this. And or just like I just couldn't get outside. Like it was bad. I was on the couch quite a bit. Like it was my choice. Like I really just didn't want to move. I wanted to just be, you know, here all the time. And so he was like the rock that was very, and he was calm. Like he was always calm about it. He was always just like, you know, we can't control every little thing that we do. We can't control the future. We just have to, you know, keep doing things day to day. And he was really good at keeping me, my headspace in a good place, because I think a lot of the time what I would do is I would just overthink and I would wake up like really worried. So I definitely had like a few times where I woke up with like a little bit of a anxiety or like a panic attack, and he would instinctively know to like just be by my side. And I think that really helped. It really helped to have somebody like just always there. So I personally felt like the pandemic did a lot of good for us, and it was really nice and inspiring in that sense, and it's helpful now that we're putting these practices into place, that we're just going to continue them despite whether or not things change or go back to a certain way that people normally like live their lives. So we'll just have to see. Well, normal is in quotations. We don't know what normal is going to look like. But yeah, like, how about yourself? Like you and, so just to clarify, like Denise is married to he's my cousin. Like we met in high school, but yeah, like she's now like married, they have a cat baby. Like it's just, it's so cute. Like I feel like you guys are doing well, but that's also just, that's all I see. I see the social media, like we talk every so often, but like I haven't really asked you how you're doing.
You know how I said it wasn't that bad for me, and it was because the transition from working from home from working at an office to working from home already happened earlier for me. So I had been employed with an organization that had work from home opportunities, and I was actually working from home at least half of the time already. So it wasn't that huge of a transition. The other thing is we don't have children, we just have a cat. So I know a lot of people had to transition into that and kind of really had to work through that. And that was a big part of what made the lockdowns really difficult, and understandably so. So I feel for me, I was blessed because I almost had a practice run already for a couple of months before we were essentially forced to stay at home. And so the main difference was that I can't go out. Being in a situation where it's forced upon you rather than it being your choice, like that scenario being your choice that you're working from home, it really highlighted when you feel like you couldn't get out. What I did find a little bit difficult when we started lockdown, so I don't know if I told you about this, but at the beginning of the year, I was actually trying to go on to a more like sustainable and plastic-free lifestyle. Did I ever tell you that?
No, you did not. That was awesome.
So see, the pandemic took that away from me.
Oh my God, it's true. It is true.
Around like I think December, January, I kind of, going on Netflix and watching all these documentaries, they always make an impact on you. And I started thinking, and I even got my husband to, buy in on into this, and we said, okay, we're going to try low waste living. We're going to minimize our plastic consumption as much as possible, do reusable jars, all that fun stuff, so that we can minimize our carbon footprint to the planet. And then all of a sudden, February, March rolls along, and there's disposable gloves everywhere, disposable masks everywhere. Every single piece of item in the grocery store had plastic wrap around it. And it was like, I had this idea of me that I was hoping to, or kind of like ideology that I was hoping to pursue, because I think that would be great for the planet. But then natural events happened, or I don't know if that we consider COVID natural events.
I don't know. To be determined. TBD.
And then all of a sudden, like those two worlds collided, and they just don't go together.
I feel like everyone started the year off with all these great plans and aspirations, and it just went like downhill, and it's unfortunate. Like I think what is just interesting is just how the world has changed so much. Like things like that, where it's like, okay, we need to like start recycling more and taking care of the environment, just went out the window because we don't want to catch this COVID-19 disease virus. It's unfortunate, and it's like, it's also like, even just looking at the way that social situations have changed, like going to the grocery store is like it's just I don't know why. I normally enjoy grocery shopping. I like going, and I like being able to take my time through things, but now I just feel like it's this like amazing race type feel, because you just got to get in there, get your
Mm.
stuff, get out. Like I think I still do take my time a little bit, but it's like I find more and more now with this pandemic, and it's really funny because I love people. Like I do love being around people. I do recognize now that I do like to be, you know, I can be a little bit of a homebody if I want to, but I do love socializing. I do like getting out. So this was really tough, like not
Mhm.
being able to physically see people, be in front of somebody when you're chatting to them. I
Mhm.
mean, Zoom calls, they've been working wonders, and House Party and all those other apps, like, you
Yeah.
know, but at the same time, nothing can really replace having a person, you know, physically by your side, and, you know, hearing someone's laughter in your ear, you know, telling you know, talking to somebody when they're in a struggle, and like being able to read their body language, and
Mhm.
they're seeing them cry, like, and helping them through that. I think that was one of the things that were really tough for me. And it's just been really interesting to see, I guess, like how we transitioned from being like completely locked down. We got to see people when it was warmer and it was nice, and being able to
Yes.
be outside, and then it got cold, and now it's like 5 o'clock and it's like pitch black outside. Like then you can't, and like it's really a big emotional roller coaster, I think, that this year has been for that. Um, like I will say, like, it wasn't all bad 100%, but I do feel like it's just it was such a pivotal year for a lot of different things, and one of them being, yeah, like it's changed that perspective, but it's also like I'm even just thinking about the fact that like so much in terms of the wider world has happened. Like people are becoming more aware of like bigger issues, and whether that is mental health or race or anything, like it's just been so interesting to see people, I guess, wake up a little bit and realize, you know, there's bigger things out there. And I think being alone, you kind of have to deal with a lot of those things. Like you have to really sit with a lot of your own issues, your own
Yeah.
prejudices, your own like, you know, feelings. And I think that's really been helping a lot of people. I will say, like, it's not helping everyone, but like some people really are sitting with themselves now and really trying to reflect on their choices in their lives. And I think that that's really important, like, to
Yes.
remember from this year. We're still doing it because we're still in a lockdown now, but I think, you know, if we could continue that sort of process, you know, into 2021, I think that that would be wonderful. It would be so nice to continue to be able to sit with our feelings more,
Yeah.
and I think it's just been really interesting, like, I think going forward, because I used to be, especially when it came to social issues and mental health especially, but even just like race, sexuality, all that stuff, I used to be very accusatory. I used to be very much like, this is wrong, like, you know, you shouldn't be like, and I know that like some people are very good at having those conversations, like they're very talented, and they're able to, I don't even know if talent is a thing, but like it's a gift, I would say, to be able to express yourself to somebody when, you
Mhm.
know, they're saying something that's, you know, that has a like some sort of connotation behind it that could be negative. And so now I'm learning to try and have conversations that are a bit more on like the healthy side for me. Like I'm not saying that what I'm doing is healthy for everybody, but what I try and do is, you know, have a discussion instead of a yelling match.
Yeah.
It's hard because sometimes you hear things and you just want to react so quickly,
Yeah.
but that's just me and my personality. But I instead would rather just have a conversation with the person, discuss where they're coming from on that situation. And I think the one thing with this pandemic, which was really key, was that everybody was suffering differently. Like it
Mhm.
wasn't like suffering is a bit big, but like grieving, I would say everyone was grieving differently. Everybody was going through something different, and it
Absolutely.
really helped you to learn to accommodate your conversation in a way where it's like, okay, like, you know, this person is experiencing loss of social situations, like, you know, this
Mhm.
person is experiencing loss because they couldn't have the wedding of their dreams, or this person, you know, like there's just so many different things that have been happening. It's and so I think what was really important, and a lot of people were, I think, starting to realize, was that loss takes many forms, grief takes many forms. Like you just have to be able to sit with that person in those feelings as well. um, So I think that was like another big learning curve for myself, like really just taking myself out of my own head and putting myself into that person's shoes.
You know, in the past, you've been, you know, working on your approach when it comes to, you know, social political topics and issues. Um, so 2020 had a lot of them. A
Yes.
lot. I mean,
Oh,
we're based in Toronto, but obviously our American counterparts too, are the social media always comes to us somehow. Um, how did you find that? And, you know, how did you deal with it?
it was really, it was a really inspiring time, I will say that much, because I think a lot of people woke up. Like I think a lot of people realized, okay, yeah, this exists in our backyard, but it also like a backyard meaning like our, well, neighbor's backyard, let's say neighbor's backyard, but it also exists in our backyard too, right? And I think, you know, being in, having this background in social work, and studying the social issues that I've had to in the past, like I do like have that knowledge base, but at the same time it's all, there's always room to learn. And I think that's what a lot of people have really hit home with over 2020, is that it was a year to learn things. It was a year to learn, you know, just what the exact issues were, like, or like the history of where a lot of, you know, racism came from, um, being able to pinpoint those exact moments in history, and being able to, you know, educate yourself on why these, some of these things are still transpiring today, but in different forms. And I think that's where it's really difficult, I think, for a lot of people to recognize how, like, to make those connections, and to even see that smaller bits, you know, really add to the bigger picture too. So like it could be a comment, it could be like, you know, just talking about somebody else, like about their identity. And I think sometimes like it's really difficult for a lot of people. I think like it's changing, like the world is changing quite a bit. But I think what was really refreshing for me to see was a lot of, you know, there were colleagues of mine from another workplace who really band together and, you know, really looked at themselves and realized, because a lot of them are primarily white, but they really tried hard to be great allies. I think they are still doing so, but you could really see them doing their due diligence, you know, looking at material that they could read, posting, you know, just anything that would help encourage the conversation.
You know, I feel like we really need to give props to, you know, the leaders that are trying. Obviously, this we're not going to transform our society from, you know, where we are now with, you know, potentially polarized views, and then all of a sudden we're all going to be, you know, hand in hand and singing songs together. That's not the reality. So for any of leaders and influencers out there that are trying to kind of, you know, even just have that conversation, bring those conversations in, um, in their workplaces, in their workspaces, it's a hard task. So I wanted to just, you know, say thank you for even trying.
Mm-hmm.
Even trying to just put that together. I honestly think it's great that we're kind of, you know, bringing that topic more to light. Even though I feel like, you know, Toronto's known for its diversity and stuff like that, and even though we are in a community that is, you know, quite culturally diverse, and I've always taken pride in that, I realized that I'm not as aware as I should be, or that I feel like I should be, about other cultures and other people's experiences, person of color's experiences. And I felt bad that, you know, I feel like I didn't do enough. So I think a lot of people, yeah, to started feeling that way once they realized that they're in the same situation. And for me, the way I cope with that is that I started to double down on trying to educate myself. I started to listening to audiobooks about you know, racism, both and the other side of the border, as well as here in Canada. And I started to follow a lot of influencers, or I started to follow a lot of people on social media who are just comfortable talking about their own experiences in that space. And it was really more just to get awareness in terms of where they're coming from and what their experiences are, so that whenever I come across, someone in, perhaps with a different identity as I am, a different cultural background, and they're going through a situation that I'm not familiar with, hopefully by educating myself, then I'm a little bit more sensitive to what they're going through, so that, I'm not responding with assumptions.
I think it's really good that you've started that. Like you've made it a point to input that part into your life. Because it is a process. It's never going to be, and I think that's just it. It's like everybody's learning, everybody's trying really hard now to make the difference that they need to make. But it's all about being able to say, okay, there's a journey to this, there's a learning curve. It's going to take a while, but we're like making the step. I think like making that step to do is really important.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask another thing, and you can let me know what good, like what do you think it was were some of your highlights, like good things that happened to you in 2020, like that were like moments or milestones or whatever it was. Like you can, and it could be anything. It doesn't even need to be like a milestone. It could be like, I don't know, like tell me.
Well, so I actually feel it's not a milestone, it's not a moment, it's kind of just progressing throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt very proud for actually being able to be kind to myself. I'm a little bit of a workhorse, and I just, have a lot of pride in being a productive member of whichever organization I'm part in. And so I tend to overwork myself. So that was one of the things during the pandemic that I really had to kind of say, hey, these are crazy times. You are going to feel off, and certain days you're not going to be your 100% self on certain days. And I knew that was going to, if I didn't check in with myself on a regular basis, if I wasn't being kind to the times when I felt like, meh, then I would just lead myself to burnout. So that for me, I felt like was such an achievement. And I think had it not been for the pandemic forcing us to stay at home, I probably wouldn't have even been just conscious about the need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
I will say easier on myself is a really big one as well. I think I get very focused really intensely on the things that I haven't achieved and I haven't done, and not even just with my day-to-day, but with my life. Like I'm just so like, oh, you still haven't, I don't know, like it's just these big voices in my head that are saying that I haven't amounted to anything. And I think it's a lot of change of perspective and being able to realize, like, there's a lot that I have done, and there's a lot that there's still to come, like, and people make transitions and changes all the time. Like, I mean, I was talking probably maybe for the last couple of years about being able to have like a podcast or a channel of some kind, of look, it's happening. So it's not to say that it will never happen. It's just timing, it's circumstance. Like, I think being able to just accept that things don't work, don't always happen like as you would have planned it or as you would have envisioned it, but things will happen. And it'll just happen in its own time, in its own way. And I think that was something that I really needed to start embracing, was just that process. Even just like the way that I carry myself in public. I think like that was another big thing for me too. Like I have insane social anxiety. Like I love people, but I'm also like, oh, like people, like if I'm in a conversation, I'm like, oh, no one laughed at my joke. Like I'm just, or like, or someone made a comment and I took it so personally and to heart. And I think I really had to start believing in myself a lot more, like getting my confidence back, getting my voice back. I definitely lost my voice for a good 4 years or so, just based off of like past trauma that I've experienced, and it was really hard to bring back that voice, and just being able to, to be able to recognize those boundaries too, like you were saying, like if I'm really not, feeling in the mood, or I'm not in a good space, like taking a breather. So like just walking away from something for a minute, or just being able to sit with my feelings, which I think I struggled with for a while. And I think it's been really helpful to just take a moment to yourself and be able to say, okay, this is bothering me. Like I'm actually not happy, or I'm not, or I'm feeling an emotion, but what is it? Like I need to look at this further. And I think that's always a difficult thing for people to do, because they just want to brush past it. They want to move on. They want to, try and, on to the next. Like it's not supposed to be this hard. So yeah, like that was what I would say the biggest change for me 2020 wise was. Like I finally got a little bit more of my confidence and my spirit and myself back, which I don't think would have happened if I had continued being around people. So yeah, it was really good for that purpose. But speaking of, the change of calendar year, it's 2021 now. I guess what do you hope for you that this year brings, I guess, like, and it could be anything, a little bit more of something that you feel like would be nice.
I guess, and I think a lot of people would probably feel the same way, just a little bit more stability this year. We all went through so many things with 2020. It's crazy. It was a crazy year for sure. And so, again, that whole concept of normal, I don't really know what it is. I don't expect to go back to normal or anything like that.
Oh, it's gone. It is gone.
Yeah, it's not. Realistically.
It's such a weird word to use now. Like I just don't think.
What is it? Who knows? Yeah. But I do look forward to, now that, we've gotten a little bit more into the groove of things of, working from home, utilizing these technological tools to, keep in touch. I mean, obviously it's still different from having like person to person conversations, but we've had a little bit of an adjustment into it, and so now we're all kind of getting in that spot where we're like, okay, we can work with this at least for now until we're able to see each other again. So I'm just really looking forward to 2021 having that little bit more stability. I will not say that 2021 is going to be my year, because people that said that when 2020 turned over is yeah, definitely taking that back. But yeah, that's pretty much all I'm looking forward to. Yeah. How about you?
I have a couple of feelings. Like I want to be able to be more present. I think I want to continue that. Just being able to, have a mindset of what I would like to do, but at the same time also just taking things day by day, which is essentially what even my counselor tells me too. Like, you have to just take things day by day, especially with the pandemic. So yeah. It's still there. It's still happening in the world, and all we can do is just continue to do our best every day, whatever that looks like. I definitely want to start looking at more parts of my life where I can experience where joy is being experienced, not where I can experience, but I think joy happens in so many different ways. So I think being able to look at life and having a lot more gratitude of those nice moments of joy are key. And even just being able to look at like that, like if it's day by day, looking at joy, looking at accomplishments, like I think it's just being able to process that we're all doing better than we think. So I think it's just really important for us I agree with you. I feel like it's really important for us to just be easier on ourselves. It's a pandemic.
Yeah.
It's a pandemic. Like what exactly is the right way to live your life in a pandemic. Like I don't know.
I don't think anyone
Who
does.
knows?
No.
So we just need to see what happens going forward. We just need to see if this is going to continue and how for much longer. And all we
Yeah.
can do is just, you know, take it day by day and write it out together, I guess.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.